UCLA quarterback Joey Aguilar has committed to Tennessee. Aguilar has spent the past 2 years with the Appalachian State Mountaineers, where he transferred to from junior college. And then he transferred to UCLA, transferred to the Bruins this past all season, spent all of spring practice with them. Then at the end of spring practice, Nico Iamaleava transferred from Tennessee to UCLA, or the day before spring practice ended for the Vols, which obviously put Aguilar in a tough spot because he had figured to be the starter at UCLA this year. And with Iamaleava leaving, he decided to transfer Aguilar to Tennessee. So Joey Aguilar is now going to Tennessee. You might as well call this the first official trade in college football history. Tennessee gets a fifth-year senior at quarterback with 1 year of eligibility. It's exactly what they wanted because they can work with Aguilar this year, and then they can open up competition next year between Jake Merklinger, George McIntyre, and incoming recruit Faison Brandon. That's exactly how they want to. That's exactly how Josh Heupel wanted this to work out. So Joey Aguilar, for those who don't know, in 2 years at Appalachian State, as a junior, completed 63.7% of his passes for 3,757 yards, averaged 8.2 yards per attempt, had 33 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, but also ran for 245 yards and 3 touchdowns. Then last year had a bit of a regression, actually. He only completed 55.9% of his passes for 3,003 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions, averaging 7.7 yards per attempt, rushed for 207 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He had the same offensive coordinator both times in Frank Ponce and the same head coach in Sean Clark, but it was weird. There was a clear regression because they went from 9-5 Aguilar's first year in 2023 at Appalachian State to 5-6 last year, and Clark was fired. More details on Joey Aguilar is that before he was at Appalachian State, he was at Diablo Valley, where he completed 228 of 379 passes for 2,992 yards and 21 touchdowns with 10 interceptions while running for 619 yards and 2 touchdowns, also hauling in a reception. So he is a mobile quarterback, a dual threat quarterback. He was at Diablo Valley in 2021 and 2022, a junior college, Appalachian State in 2023 and 2024, and Tennessee in 2025. He hails from California, Oakley, California, to be exact. That's in Contra Costa County, California, which is, we could say, right around the San Francisco Bay Area, so more northern California. And he went to Freedom High School. That is all the details of Joey Aguilar. Again, he has 1 year of eligibility left, although that's up in the air given the Diego Pavia lawsuit about playing in junior college, but we'll have to see how that works. But today's tough question, let's dive in. Did the Tennessee Vols get an upgrade at quarterback? Remember, without Joey Aguilar, Tennessee was going to start Nico Iamaleava. Nico Iamaleava last year did have better numbers than Joey Aguilar. I'm not going to lie. He completed 63.8% of his passes for 2,616 yards, 19 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and averaged 7.8 yards per attempt, while Aguilar averaged 7.7 yards per attempt and had 23 touchdowns and 14 interceptions and just 55.9% of his passes. Also, Iamaleava ran better. He had 358 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. Well, like I told you guys, Aguilar just had 207 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. So did Tennessee upgrade at quarterback? Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. I'm going to say yes. Yes, they upgraded at quarterback, but not significantly. And not, let me be very clear, they upgraded over last year at quarterback. They didn't upgrade over what I think Nico Iamaleava was going to be this year. I'm going to be honest with you guys. They didn't. You guys may think that Nico Iamaleava was only going to be as good as he was last year, which wasn't very good. I still believed that Nico would be a much improved quarterback this year. I'm not going to change that just because he transferred. Now, will he be better at UCLA than Joey Aguilar is at Tennessee? Doubtful. New system, less talent around him, all those things. But you also have to bring up the point that Aguilar, look, that was a clear regression last year. You can't look past that. And Nico Iamaleava, I don't see it likely that he has a regression. He played in a tougher conference, played tougher opponents, and had better numbers, honestly. I don't think you can honestly say that that Joey Aguilar is an upgrade over Nico Iamaleava. Now, a couple of caveats. Again, I think he may be an upgrade over last year's Nico Iamaleava, not over what Nico Iamaleava was going to be this year. I know that's splitting the baby. I know that's splitting hairs, but that's just how this is going, okay? And by the way, this is up on the poll question right now. Did the Vols upgrade at quarterback switching from Nico Iamaleava to Joey Aguilar? You can vote yes, no. I'm sorry. I just think that Joey Aguilar, I think there's a lot of talent there. There's a lot of potential. I think he could be fine at Tennessee, and I think Tennessee will be fine with him because I think they might have upgraded in general at quarterback. But I think I'm sorry, they might have upgraded in general as a team, which will make Aguilar look better. But I can't sit up there and say that I think Aguilar is an upgrade over what I thought Iamaleava was going to be. And so that's the one issue that I would say comes with Aguilar committing to Tennessee. Now, again, a lot of things to think about with Aguilar. There are some things to like more about him than with Nico. He does seem to be a more ball passer, watching some of his highlights last year. Now, I think Nico could have gotten better at that. The deep passes weren't there as much last year. That is a bit of a problem, and that's unfair to him. But that doesn't change the fact that when he did have those deep shots, he missed quite a few of them. Aguilar is a more, I guess, effective runner. He's not linky, and he's not as awkward and linky when he does run, which is a big deal. So I think that matters. But we haven't seen, and he does throw decent deep shots. He's very accurate over the middle of the field, which is a good sign. And he actually has a good zip, which is a very good sign. So I think that's the big thing with Joey Aguilar is he's got great zip on the ball over the middle of the field. He is accurate on the deep ball. Does seem to have good, should we say, he does seem to have good awareness in the pocket. And actually, for the record, awareness is not as important in Josh Heupel's system. You're taught to read one side of the field. So I think all of that is a good sign for Aguilar. But did they upgrade over what Iamaleava would be this year? I'm going to say no. You guys vote on they're going to upgrade. They upgraded over what Iamaleava was last year. You guys give your thoughts on it. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones.
Talking about Joey Aguilar, listen to me. Talking about Joey Aguilar transferring to Tennessee from UCLA in an effective trade, Nico Iamaleava for Joey Aguilar. Joey Aguilar does have a quicker release, probably has better awareness, better zip over the middle, more effective runner. Nico still has a prettier deep ball. It's just not as accuracy was an issue. So going to the message boards again, my take that the Vols upgraded quarterback. Reading the poll question right now, it seems like the audience slightly sides with me. 53% say no, 47% say yes. I mean, it's a tough one. I'll say this. Again, they've upgraded over what Nico Iamaleava was last year at quarterback, but I don't think they've upgraded over what Nico Iamaleava would have been with Tennessee this year. Nico Iamaleava would have had more experience, put on some weight, would have had more help around him. So I think the receivers would have been better. So I think that Nico Iamaleava this year would have been better. He won't be better at UCLA. I want to be clear on that. Now, I want to address the message board points a little bit. David Speaks does bring up a good point. Mizzou's starting running back last year was Aguilar's running back in 2023, and his top wide receiver and most of his starting offensive line transferred in 2024. David, that's a very fair point, but I mean, you're right. There was a lot less help around Aguilar last year. But I would also venture to say that you got to give Iamaleava a break for the same thing at a higher level of competition. Brew McCoy should not have been starting last year as much as we all loved him. He just had lost a step. That messed up the whole receiving core. Dante Thornton was nicked all year, even though he started, and Squirrel White played with a shoulder injury all year. So the three receivers Tennessee meant to go with in their rotation couldn't stretch the field the way they're meant to in Heupel's offense. So Iamaleava also didn't have the help he needed, and he had two tackles playing hurt at the beginning of the year, particularly Lance Hurd on a sprained ankle. So he barely had time to get the ball out. So if you're going to be fair to Aguilar about losing help around him at Appalachian State, while still being a quarterback against much less competition, you got to be fair to Iamaleava with the lack of help he had at Tennessee early last year and actually throughout the year to a certain degree. Derek brings up a good point. Derek, I love this point that he says, I don't think talent matters as much in this offense. It's the execution and timing that makes it dangerous when we can play with tempo. Derek, you're right. Playing with tempo. And then another point by Derek is that we haven't seen true tempo since Hendon left as far as making an impact in the game. Derek, that's a great point. The talent is not as important. I honestly didn't understand why Heupel went all out for a quarterback anyway, because all you need is a quarterback that can run this offense. Get the talent elsewhere, particularly at receiver. And truth be told, this year things could work better for Tennessee. Not because of Nico or not because of Joey Aguilar replacing Nico, but just because the receivers are upgraded. And I think the rules changes in college football will allow teams to run more tempo because less faking of injuries. That's a big advantage that they're going to have. Kyle says he gets the ball. GBO Kyle Beach says he gets the ball out of his hands a lot faster than Nico. That is true. That part's true. I think Nico would have improved on that this year, though. And Derek asking who wins more games, UCLA or Tennessee. Derek, come on. It's going to be Tennessee. So this comes down to the talent around him pretty much. And so I would say that while Nico had some issues last year, I still, and again, my final take on this is that Joey Aguilar is going to be a better quarterback than Nico Iamaleava was last year. Okay. But he's not going to be a better quarterback than Nico Iamaleava was going to be this year. Okay. So that's where I land on that. You guys can give me your thoughts. But I think that long term, I think that Tennessee still would have been better off with Nico Iamaleava, although they are still actually somewhat in better shape, given the fact that they now have a stopgap year and then they have an open competition for quarterback next year with two guys who will have been in the system. So it'll be fun to watch that next year.